This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. And folks, we have a wonderful guest on here today, somebody that's had a legendary career, one that has a great background story, and he's got a lot of cult classics that's inspired people like Quentin Tarantino. Folks, I give you the wonderfully talented Jack Hill. How do you do, Jack?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm doing okay.
Well, you know what? It's wonderful having you on here today, and I gotta ask you to start off, I'm not gonna give your age out here, but what is your secret?
I've got too many secrets to, I wouldn't know where to begin. Secret?
Secret to a good long life.
Oh, okay. Well, I was born the same week that Franklin Roosevelt was inaugurated president. Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany, and Kim Novak was born. How's that for a child of history?
Well, being born when Kim Novak is, that's not a bad idea.
Just a few days off, yeah.
There you go. There you go. And she's still going as well. Well, you know what? I gotta go way back here because I know we talked before. Your family, of course, both were involved with the arts. Your mother, of course, was a music teacher. Your father, of course, was also involved in motion pictures. And I found it interesting, especially with movies like Singing in the Rain and most recently Babylon, where the idea of the talking pictures coming into play. And of course, the jazz singer, which with Al Jolson, which changed everything, Your father was involved with that. Did you ever hear any stories from your dad about that period?
No, I can't say no. Not really. I wish I had talked to him about it more, but I know that he started with First National Studios around 1925. Later became Warner Brothers, and worked with the studio all the time, clear up until the consent decree in 48 broke up the studio system, and then he went freelancing and did a lot of TV, and he ended up with Disney, working on he designed the interiors of Captain Nemo's submarine, the Nautilus, for 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And
Nice.
put him to work at Disney. Walt put him to work on this new project called, which would end up being called Disneyland. And he designed the castle, the famous Disneyland castle, for that, plus many, many of the other things, a lot of Main Street and the pirate ship and Tom Sawyer's Island, and a lot of stuff there for quite a while. And then he went working in TV for quite some time.
Absolutely. And of course, your mother being a music teacher, you went into music as well, and did you have any favorite preference for a music instrument, because I know when you didn't stick with it, but obviously you had some inspiration to go into it at an early age.
Well, I was brought up playing violin and piano when I was a child, of course, like anybody with a music teacher mother would. And later, when I was in high school, I learned French horn, and I got very good at that. And then I played all strings, but my music career developed finally into playing an instrument called the cymbalum, a Hungarian instrument called cymbalum, which is used for, which you hear I played for a while in a Hungarian restaurant, playing on the Sunset Strip. And then I did a lot of studio recordings on that cymbalum, because most of the other people who played it were people from Hungary who didn't know how to follow a conductor. And so I got a lot of work. I ended up working on Dr. Zhivago quite a bit there. I can still hear myself when I hear that. It used to be playing in supermarkets, music backgrounds, but nowadays they don't have that anymore. And I did the Brothers Karamazov, where they issued a a phonograph record with me playing not the title song, but what they call the love song from the Brothers Karamazov. And then once I got into, so I was, I was expecting to have a career in music in some way, but I really wanted to learn to score films. So when I went to UCLA, I got my degree in music, but then I got in the motion picture department. And they got me in a writing class, and they encouraged me to do more. And so I ended up working on student films and doing my own student film. And yeah, Francis Coppola and I worked on each other's student films. We were students there at the same time. And then after that, I worked on some things that Francis was doing and got into working for Roger Corman, and the rest was blah, blah, blah.
Roger Corman's still going too, you know. Well, your directional debut was a film called Mondo Keyhole. Now, what was it like stepping in and directing your first picture? You know, did you have any inspirations from previous filmmakers? Were you nervous about it? Did you have an idea of how you wanted to go about this?
No, I had been directing scenes for other pictures for Roger Corman before I got into that one. That's Mondo Keyhole was I got to working for a guy named John Lamb, who was producing a lot of like nudist films and various things, softcore, theatrical. I don't know what else he was doing, but that was bits and pieces put together. It's one I just as soon forget, although I had some fun doing it. I did a lot of kind of experimental things with it. Say you could, when you're making a movie where you're selling a certain product, which was basically nudity and sex, you could throw in a lot of experimental things and get away with it because it makes it look more artistic, you know. So it was good for me to do that. But I had already directed scenes for fixing Roger Corman films that weren't finished or needed additional material, and so I had quite a bit of experience in actually directing by that time.
Okay. Well, you followed that up with Bloodbath. Now, this was where, correct me if I'm wrong, you got introduced to Sid Haig, who worked with you in a lot of movies. And of course, he's known a lot today for the Rob Zombie Devil's Rejects and whatnot. We lost him not too long ago, and I've heard so many wonderful things about him from people that have met him. I never had the pleasure, but talk about working with Sid Haig and any stories of all the times that all the films that you worked with him on.
Well, he started off his career working on my student film at UCLA. The Host is the name of it, a little 30-minute film. And I got him because my teacher there was sort of the main advisor of the motion picture department there, Dorothy Arzner, who had been the only female picture director in Hollywood for probably up until that time. And she was really, really good. And she was advising at the Pasadena Playhouse, a very famous actors training place. And she recommended him for my student film. So that's where I first met him, and he did it. And that film is actually available to watch on, I think on the Switchblade Sisters Arrow DVD. They have it Blu-ray out on that one as an extra on that. And then, so after that, let me see, what did I do after that? Well, when I got to working on my first big, sort of big in quotes for Roger Corman, I wrote him into the script. And then I did a follow-up to that one called The Big Birdcage, which he and Pam Grier were my, I like to think of them as my Tracy and Hepburn.
There you go.
But I put them together in quite a few films after that, yeah, until he got too expensive for my budgets.
Oh, well, you know what? I correct me if I'm wrong. Your first major big film was Spider Baby. Would I say correct?
I wouldn't say big. It was pretty, it was sort of, at least not big in budget, but it was, we had, it was a real movie. Yeah, you could put it that way.
What an interesting movie too. And you get to work with Lon Chaney Jr., what was it like working with him?
He was just a wonderful guy. He was so happy to be. I'll tell you an anecdote on that one if you want to hear it.
Sure. Yeah.
Producers, we were working on casting, and he was naturally our first choice. I mean, I had him in mind really in writing the script, and so they called his agent and they sent him the script, and then his agent came back with a fee that was really too big for the budget. So we decided, okay, we can't get him. What about John Carradine? He's got a background in horror movies. So they called. Turned out John Carradine had the same agent. So they called and asked him about John Carradine. We got a call back and said Lon will take the picture. He'll do it for the price. So he liked the script so much, and he thought it would give him a chance to really do some interesting things, which it did.
Mm-hmm.
And then so that's how we got him. And Mantan Moreland, we just all agreed because, there was an article published recently by somebody claiming that like Hollywood began using black actors to get killed in movies, and they used my picture Spider-Bird as an example. They got black guy opens with a black guy who gets murdered, and that was 1964. It was a very, very different idea. We cast Benjamin Moreland because he was a comedian. He really knew how to do it, and had nothing to do with it. So anyhow, that's how we got Mantan Moreland. We all just thought, oh, wouldn't it be great to get Mantan Moreland? And it doesn't mean that much to audiences nowadays. Probably not 1 in a million people watching movies ever heard of Mantan Moreland, but he was very popular back in those days, before the civil rights movement basically killed his career.
And of course, you had Carol Almart in this as well. She was in, of course, House on Haunted Hill. Now, was she cast for her history in horror films, or was that just like a?
I don't know why. It's just she was just somebody that she hadn't done anything for a while, so we figured she might be really sort of available, as we used to put it. And she really liked the script and wanted to do it. She even, if you could believe this, here's a Hollywood story for her. She at one point shooting the film, do you think we could win the Academy Award?
Why not? The Academy Awards are a little weird because I'm one of the people this year that's not happy Mia Goth was not nominated for Pearl, and because she was really that good. But horror movies don't have a lot of luck with the Academy, and so, but I think Carol's sentiment is a nice one. It's a very big compliment to your film.
Yeah, she really enjoyed doing it, had a great time doing it. Yeah.
And of course, Beverly Washburn was in this as well, and you of course used her again in Pit Stop.
Yeah.
Yep.
She's still she and I are close friends, although we live a continent apart.
Yeah, I'm thinking about reaching out to her and having her come on here and talk about this as well. So yeah. Then you have 4 movies back to back with Pam Grier, and boy, and I know I brought this up before because I love Switchblade Sisters. So of course, Quentin Tarantino was big on that film, but he also, of course, every time I watch Jackie Brown, I think of these movies you did, because obviously he got, he brought Pam Grier back into the limelight, and I don't know why she didn't get an Oscar nomination for that, but
Well,
nonetheless,
she was
yeah,
nominated for the what you call it award, the Critics Award.
yeah. But Quentin's obviously a big fan of your work. That's going to be a major compliment to you, because I think he's one of the best filmmakers working today. Yeah. But he's
He said I was the Howard Hawks of exploitation pictures. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I
That
like,
is a good thing. Being compared to Howard Hawks is a good thing. Trust me. That is a good thing, you know. But I think that's a major compliment. And of course, you did 4 movies with her, and I am going to bring up from the Big Birdcage. You had Anitra Ford in that. Of course, went on to do Invasion of the Bee Girls too, which I thought was pretty cool. So she had some experience in these as well.
she was great to work with. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now between the Big Dollhouse, the Big Birdcage, Coffee, and Foxy Brown. Now all great Pam Grier performance, but which one would you say was her best work out of the 4? That might be a tough question.
It's not a tough question. Coffee, absolutely. Coffee
Oh,
is
Coffee. Okay.
consider that to be, well, yeah, Quentin thought that was like the great, he likes to say things like this, bless him. It's the greatest revenge movie ever made.
Well, there you go. Well, he's had a lot of revenge in his movies, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But absolutely, and Coffee, of course, had Carol Locatel in it as well, who I'm also familiar with.
Oh, really? That's most people have no idea. Yeah, I'm not familiar with her at all. She was a good friend of mine at the time, and she really thought it was great because she had been playing characters like cancer victims, this kind of stuff. So for her to do this was a great. She really had fun with it.
Carol Locatel went on, she was in Sharky's Machine, but most people today know her from Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning as Ethel. And I haven't had her on here yet, but she's a big staple at the horror conventions whenever she shows up there with Ron Sloan, who
Oh,
played her son Junior in that film, and they really steal scenes in that.
I didn't know that. I didn't.
Oh yeah, but absolutely. But I knew she was in that. But out of those 4 pictures with Pam Grier, was Coffee the one you enjoyed making the most?
Enjoyed making. It's pretty hard to say I enjoyed making it. I enjoyed the fact that I managed to make it to get through it, but
Hmm.
I don't know. I don't know. I can't say which movie which I enjoyed the most. It was the main thing about that one. What I enjoyed was working with her on the screenplay. She just gave me some really good ideas. And the interesting thing about that, though, is that I got this assignment from the studio AIP. And I went, and they told me we want to do a black woman's revenge movie.
Hmm.
The opening scene where she just kills the shit out of 2 guys. So that was what I had to work with. And I developed the script. I put that in as they wanted. And the movie turned out to be a big hit. We actually opened in the theaters that actually knocked off a James Bond movie for one week off the top spot. So I'm
Nice.
happy about that one, yeah.
Hmm. Well, it's interesting because Big Dollhouse and Big Birdcage are both very similar, but well, Coffee and Foxy Brown could play in a double billing together. So I found that quite interesting. Um, was any of those pictures, was there anything difficult about making them? Because of course I'm not a filmmaker, but I see these movies and I'm wondering in terms of the production, in terms of makeup, or in terms of staying on budget. Because after Spider Baby, when you did these ones here, it looked like again, correct me if I'm wrong, it looked like your budget was a little bigger. Am I right there?
Well, yeah, but it was that's kind of deceptive to think in terms of, but because AFP, they were all union pictures, so they had to pay. Um, they had to do it on a pretty tight schedule.
Uh-huh.
Uh, yeah, the budget was much more than I had to work with before. The ones I did in the Philippines, the budget was very, very tiny because the producers who shared it had a company in the Philippines, and they put up a whole lot of the expense there. And working in the Philippines is very cheap. But working on the AIP pictures, they had basically a budget limit of $500,000, which was a lot more in those days than it is today, and 18-day schedule, which was very tight because before that I'd been working in the Philippines. Your cheapest thing is time, where working in Hollywood, time is your most expensive item. So instead of a 28-day schedule or a 30-day schedule, it's got 18 days. But I managed to bring it in, and yes, it was difficult. So that's what's difficult, is when you've got a really tight schedule and you really must stick to it one way or another, or else you're just out. But I managed to do it. And Foxy Brown, I managed to bring in a day early, which made me a total hero at that company.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, oh, what was I going to say alongside
They were
this?
asking me about the difficulties. Yes, the biggest difficulty was that at that time we're doing basically it was an action movie with a lot of action, which means we need stunts. And
Uh-huh.
when you're doing stunts, you need stunt men
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes stunt women. And there were virtually, absolutely, not virtually, just absolutely no Black stunt women who basically the one who had to be trained on the spot, and it was very scary because they can be dangerous if you got stunt people who are not really experienced and trained. And there were very few black stuntmen, and so that we had a little few scary moments there because when you got somebody who's not trained and experienced doing a dangerous stunt,
Yeah.
well, you get it.
Oh yeah, I've had some stuntmen on here before. So actually, I'm good friends with Lisa Hoyle, who was Christine Applegate's stunt double for a long time, and does a lot of trapeze stunts. And I've heard all the stories.
Yeah.
But Pam Grier, I know we've talked before that Pam Grier had no issues doing nudity. That could be a problem with some people, and it's always nice when people are willing to just work with it.
Oh, she was proud of her looks, of her body, and had no qualms about it at all. In fact, she how can I put it? She was happy about doing it. Yeah.
Did you ever have difficulties with any actresses in terms of nudity in a film?
No, no, no. It's very clear from the beginning that that's a requirement of the genre, and it's not just for me. Oh, that I want to make news in the new
Yeah,
in the movie. It's a requirement, and if they didn't want to do it, we get somebody else. Basically, that's the understanding from the beginning. But at that time, it was fairly late on in the movie, so it was much more respectable for actresses to be nude in those days. Before that, it would have been like a stigma.
absolutely. And of course, you did the swinging cheerleaders where you got to work with Colleen Camp. There's somebody I like, and I loved her, of course, in Apocalypse Now, where you see her uh, in that famous uh, Playboy Bunny scene.
She was great to work with, just wonderful. So many directors really liked her, but she had some personal problems too. She died fairly young, I recall, from, I think, involving drugs.
No,
I,
Colleen Camp's still with us.
oh, you're talking about Kelly. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Angel. Oh, yeah, I got them mixed up in my mind sometimes. Yeah, no, Colleen Camp. Woo! Yeah, let me go back and say that again. Very professional, very talented, really, really. I thought you were talking about Angel Tompkins. So no, not Angel Tompkins. I can't remember her name right now.
I've heard
Yeah.
so many good things about Colleen Camp. I've never spoke to her personally, but everybody that I brought her name up to worked with her, said good things about her.
Well, she was, all I can tell you, she was just very professional and
Mhm.
thoroughly prepared. And yeah,
And had a witty sense of humor too.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Switchblade Sisters, of course, is my favorite of your movies. There's something about that that just kind of brings back some memories of, like, I love the movie Class of 1984. This kind of reminds me of why I love that movie. And a lot of it's the look of the picture, the feel of the picture. And it was Quentin Tarantino that really turned me on to this movie, and actually kind of got me into looking into your work. So another Quentin Tarantino win here, and because usually one film leads you on to looking into the other films.
Uh,
Um, Switchblade Sisters, of course, takes you away from the Pam Grier movies and gets you into a very different atmosphere. Talk about uh, getting the project of Switchblade Sisters and filming that.
oh, before I get into that, let me just mention, because you haven't mentioned it, I think the best, really kind of best in a certain sense, movie I made was Pit Stop. I don't know if you've seen that one, but it's available on. I don't know if it's on streaming. I think it may be. It was on Turner, I think, but it's available on DVD also from Arrow, the British company, and
Pit Stop is your favorite?
that's I think it's the best film. It's done on a really shoestring budget, but we just that Sid Haig is in that, by the way, and
Uh-huh.
it was introduced actress named Ellen McRae, who later became known as Ellen Burstyn, and
Okay.
Brian
Yeah.
Donlevy was in it. If anybody alive today remembers who Brian Donlevy is, was, and Beverly Washburn was in it. Yeah, of course.
Yep.
So that's the
Okay.
one.
Let's talk about Pit Stop for a moment. Why is that your favorite? And talk about your experience making it, because just going by the sound of your voice, that brings back some really great memories for you.
Well, we just had a microscopic budget, but we got so much cooperation from so many people. And the main thing was I discovered was at that time was this figure eight track racing. And when I first observed one of those things, I said, my God, this is something that we've got to get on film. People won't believe it, that they have such a thing. It's just crash, crash, crash. And so I figured, this is something I really need to make a movie about, because especially overseas in other countries, this is like a part of Americana that they never heard of. It'll just be mind blowing. So everything kind of Roger Corman had asked me if I could make a stock car racing movie. And at first I think, oh, stock car racing, I have no interest in it whatsoever. But then I discovered this figure eight, and I said, this has got to be, I got to do this. And I had lots of cooperation with people, and the actors really liked it. And yeah, Sid Haig
Hmm.
just really loved it. And he worked with, what's the name? I can't, sorry, think of his name. He played James Dean's brother in East of Eden. I can't remember his name right now.
Oh, yeah, it's not coming to me
Yeah,
either.
okay. All right. Anyway, and he was a wonderful actor, and so it's just everybody in it was really good, and it was to be able to do that, accomplish that with I mean, all the racing stuff and everything. It's just, I don't know. Then when I think back today, I just don't know how I was able to do that.
Oh, it's always nice to look back and you see something as like, how did I do that? How did I put that together? And it all comes together. And what a proud accomplishment it gives you.
Yeah, we did lots of interesting things on that too. Like, for example, scenes where we're looking at the driver in a car, or two
Hmm.
people in a car, and you see they're driving around and you see all the traffic behind them and everything. Nowadays with digital, there's no problem doing that. But at that time we had to use a projection screen, and to set up, going to a studio with rear projection. You know what I'm talking about, right? Process screen. It's where the background is filmed in advance
Yep. Yep.
in a screen behind the actors. And to do that, it's very expensive. You have to go into a special studio that has synchronized projectors, blah, blah, blah. It turns out, somebody told me to try this. It turns out that if you project through a theater projector, which has a double-bladed shutter, and that's important, it will work without being synchronized to the camera. And so we tried a test on it, and by golly, it worked. So we filmed the background shots, and then the cameraman, we put a projector, a studio theater projector in his bedroom, projecting through his bedroom window onto a screen. And in front of the screen, we put the actors, and worked primo. And when you see it, you're not aware you're seeing a projection screen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Switchblade Sisters. That, of course, is one of these female gang movies, which, of course, I love. I have a question. You have one female with an eye patch on. Was that part of the script?
Yeah, that was just
Okay.
a vision that I had. What's the actress name? Actress, I can't remember her name right now.
I don't know. I'm away from my computer, just on my phone. So
Sorry, but she really thought that was fun. And then she just disappeared. And when we rebought out the picture with Quentin Tarantino, we tried our darndest to try to find her. Nobody knew where she was. We couldn't locate her.
you had a lot of stunning women in that movie, I gotta say.
Well,
Yeah. What was you gonna say?
no, that's all. Yeah, stunning. Yeah, okay. You were asking me about Lenny Bruce's daughter, and
Oh yes, that's right. Lenny Bruce's daughter plays Donut in this movie.
yeah.
I love the names of some of these characters in the movie.
We had a writer who working just basically working with me and my producer partner John Preiser, and developing the script. And he came up with a lot of very good ideas. And in later years, I heard that he just really hated every minute of it. And I said,
Ah,
this is what it's like sometimes working with people you never know, especially writers who are not really experienced in the movie business. This was his first shot at doing a screenplay.
well, let's go back here for a moment because Kitty Bruce, of course, the daughter of Lenny Bruce.
Yeah.
Uh, I know you've had touch base with him in the past. Anything you want to share about encounters with him? Because
No,
he was a controversial figure back in the day.
yeah, he really was. And I met him, but I mean, I can't say that he was a friend or anything like that. But his daughter, when she was a baby,
Mhm.
I saw when I was chatting with him, a friend of mine, his father was manager of a hotel, and Lenny Bruce was staying in the hotel, and that's around the swimming pools when I first saw his baby daughter. But he was doing nightclub acts where they had strippers too, and I was doing music. I was doing music arrangements for people that worked in that business, and that's how that kind of came about.
Yeah. Well, talk about working with Kitty Bruce as Donut and Switchblade Sisters.
Not much to say about working with her. She didn't feel very good about I don't know. She was very body conscious, and
Okay.
felt there was too much concern about being overweight, and yeah. But aside from that, she did fine. Did really good work.
No, she was quite funny too. Again, a witty sense of humor. You had
She's
a lot of, yeah,
talented. No question about it. Yeah.
absolutely. But Was there any scenes in that movie that were difficult to film, especially when it come to the violent scenes?
Violent scenes. Well,
Mhm.
I don't know. Not out of the ordinary difficult, I would say. Not really.
I
Uh,
love the location work in this movie, you know, where you got the like the old cafes, you got the like the city, you know, and where did you shoot Switchblade Sisters? Because that would be something where a person would love to if like I know that Sean Clark does these uh videos where he goes to locations for films, and um Switchblade Sisters would be a wonderful film to do something like that with, you know. Talk about the filming locations for Switchblade Sisters.
I'm trying to remember the name. It was in the Los Angeles area. I can't right now remember the name of that particular area,
Hmm.
so I can't be very helpful with that one.
Yeah, I love the look of the film. Is Switchblade Sisters available on Blu-ray?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Arrow Films again. They have Arrow Video, Arrow, a British company. They have my entire library there, even stuff that I just assumed would not be seen. They got it all on there. The whole caboodle on Blu-ray.
I'm still I still a physical media guy. I oftentimes if I don't see something in the store, then it's out of sight, out of mind. But if I know something is available, I could order it on Amazon.
Yeah, they
You
have
know,
everything. They have all
yeah.
that.
Is your stuff in 4K yet?
I don't know anything about it.
I don't know. That's starting to become a thing here now too.
It's me.
Um, yeah. No, I'm one of the physical media people. You know, I don't do the online stuff. You know, I love to have a copy of the movies and show them to people and whatnot. Now, your last movie was in 1982 called Sorceress, and before we get into that, I was wondering um, why was that your last movie, and what took you away from the business?
Well, what took me pretty much away from the business was uh, I didn't want to make the kind of films that I was making anymore. But directors get typecast just as bad or even worse than actors. And having made two very highly successful so-called black pictures, now they call them black exploitation, but they didn't have that word then. Um, he makes black pictures, and they didn't consider that to be it was just awful. The prejudice towards the theater owners were reluctant to program some of them because they thought that the audience would tear up the seats and this kind of stuff. And I'm not kidding, there was really that kind of talk. So I got,
Oh, I don't doubt it.
yeah, so I got typecast with that. And so I made other films after that. And, but I was identified too, I did too many. And I was just identified with that. Not now, nowadays, of course, it's considered a genre, you know,
Hmm.
so, but then it was not really that respectable. So, and then to top that off, Switchblade Sisters was a flop in the theaters, and I couldn't get financing, and I couldn't get financing to do my own pictures, and I was too much stereotyped to get studio work. And so basically I did a lot of writing back then. And then when Quentin brought out this Switchblade Sisters again, it was very interesting because they had such high hopes for it. And when they opened, they had these screenings that were very successful. People loved the movie, but they opened in the theaters and nobody showed up. And so the agency that had wanted me to sign with them didn't return my calls anymore. So that was basically it. So I did a lot of writing after that. But then when Sorcerers came up, that was Roger Corman. It was a little different because he had a special effects studio that was doing really good work, and he was doing some work for major studios, a lot things in the studio. And this was going to be something that he was going to really do big time. And with beautiful special effects, which he had the ability to do. And I thought this would put me in a different category to show that I can do what looks like a really big picture. I mean, it was intended to look like a big movie, studio film. But the whole thing from beginning to end was just a nightmare. Let me put it that way. And ended up just getting totally screwed on it.
Do you want to go into detail on that?
It's a very simple detail.
Mhm.
It was financed partly by the Mexico, but shot in Mexico,
Mhm.
which was I thought it was a terrible idea. Originally, he wanted to do it in the Philippines, and I thought that's impossible. We can't do this. And so he said he had somebody in Portugal that thought somebody in France that said they could shoot in Portugal. So we actually went to Portugal, and they all the only kind of movies they can make in Portugal were like TV commercials or anything because they had no ability. So then he told me to go to Spain, and we went to Spain, and they couldn't get that. And then he sent me to Rome because he said this Italian company really likes it and they want to do it. So we went to Rome and looked at locations and met with the production people there and everything. All of a sudden he gets a call, said, take the next plane to Mexico. You got a better deal in Mexico. So we went to Mexico. But the beautiful thing about it, the Mexican was financed partly by the Mexican government. They had a program for making films there, and by a British company called Hemdale, which was David Hemmings and another guy. And
Yep.
they had the, so anyway, it was split up by those three things. And I was supposed to get a profit participation from all of these sources. Bottom line being that everybody charged on the profit participation, charged a negative cost against it. And the negative cost was, well, let me just put the bottom line. They put down negative costs as zero. And the Mexican government took their share in, and the department of the president's wife was in charge. They
Oh.
went to Spain. Never mind. It's just so basically the net profit was zero, and on top of that, all these great special effects that the whole thing was just a nightmare. They didn't do them. So, but yet it turned out to be a profitable film. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Do you
Well,
ever get?
not
Do you?
profitable for me.
Yeah.
So
Do you,
I was out of it. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, what would you say was the most valuable thing you've learned through your career? Because you had a long-spanning career.
Valuable thing I've
Learn.
learned.
Yeah.
I can't. I don't have an answer for that one. Sorry.
No. No. Okay. Do you ever get to do the convention scenes? And if you do, what's the most interesting thing you've ever been asked to sign?
Oh, I used to do those. I don't do it anymore. It's too much trouble. But I used to do a lot. I was like, people would bring me their DVDs to autograph. They would bring me their posters to autograph, and pretty much stills that I had, things like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, you know.
I can tell you one valuable thing I learned
Okay.
about writing, about screenwriting.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to collaborate with another writer, make sure you have a contract on paper, signed.
Ah. Yeah, I hear you.
Yes, you do remember who's the guy that made all those gay films? The Gay Mafia, sort of. Alan Carr. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I worked, collaborated. Well, that's just one example of collaboration where I was very, very fortunate that I had a contract because I worked with a writer named Bronte Woodard, who was credited on one of the Alan Carr pictures. The one, yeah. Anyway, and I just cut the story very short because they took the he would with Alan Carr, and he was gay, and all the people working around Alan Carr were gay, and I wasn't. So basically, they took the story that I worked out with Bronte, and I never heard from him. I said, what's happening with our story? And he said, nothing, nothing. And then I found out that they had hired another writer to do a script on it. And so I got my lawyer to inform them that I had a contract with this writer, Bronte. And that was the only thing that saved me from being completely shut out with zero. So that's the kind of stuff that can happen. I don't know if I should even talk about this, but if you want to talk about what I learned, make sure you got it on paper.
There you go. There you go. Well, you know what, Jack, it was wonderful having you come on here today. And it's wondered, do you have a web page you want to plug and promote on here, or any charities that you're involved with that you want to plug on here?
No, the only thing I want to plug is anybody who wants to see my movies. They're basically all available on DVD, and most of them are on streaming, on video on demand also. There was something I interrupted you. You were going to ask me about a minute ago, and I interrupted you. What was that going to be?
Oh, gee, what was I going? I don't even remember. I think I was I asked you about the convention scene and what's the most interesting thing you ever was asked to sign.
Most interesting thing I was ever asked to sign? No, just the usual stuff, posters and stills and things like that.
Okay.
Trying to come up with something that, oh, well, yeah, I don't know. I could go on for a long time telling slightly interesting things, but I don't know. It's
Okay. Well, Jack, it was wonderful having you come on here today. I know we tried to do this before, and
well, you got the soundtrack, the earlier one. Where you were asking me about my early work with Roger Corman and all that. You got that.
Oh,
You could use that recording, right?
you know what? Let's talk about your early work with Roger Corman. I have you on here because I mean Roger has had, like, I had Dick Miller on here 5 months before he passed away, and of course Dick was involved in so many Corman movies. I got to start with Corman. What are your Roger Corman stories and some of the pictures you did with him that you're most fond of?
I can't say I'm really fond of any of the pictures I did. Well, although he financed Pit Stop, so that was a good thing. But I think just working with him was really the education. I mean, it's where he makes every nickel show on screen practically. That's the idea, and not many nickels. But worked with Francis Coppola, because Francis really kind of brought me into working with Roger. I was doing I was cameraman, director of photography on a nudie cutie that Francis wrote and directed called, it's originally called The Bellboy and the Playgirls. And
Okay, yep.
the producers found that it wasn't working, so they changed the title to The Playgirls and the Bellboy, and it took off. Now that's a little bit of interesting comment on how the movie business works. They thought that the starting the name with the Bellboy sounded too much like one of the Bellboy movies. Remember, there's a whole string of them.
Yeah, Jerry Lewis. Yeah.
Yeah. So they started off with the Playgirls, and that's Playgirls and the Bellboy, and then it became a big hit. And I had worked as a cameraman on Francis with that. And then when he started working with Roger Corman, he brought me in there to do stuff. And then after he left for higher pastures, I worked on a lot of things for Roger, fixing movies, that additional scenes, and writing new stuff and all that. Just the terror was one that I
Mhm.
really did a lot of work on, which was,
Well,
yeah, Jack
I
Nicholson. Yeah, go
oh
ahead.
yeah, Jack Nicholson. Oh, I was gonna say I didn't write them down here because I noticed when I was doing research on you, there was a lot of films that were shot, but you did the U.S. Scenes for certain movies. We could talk about that if you want to.
Oh, I don't know if it's all that interesting, actually. That was, well, yeah, yeah, I can tell you a great story. This was one of the early things that Francis was assigned to and brought me in on. Roger had purchased a Russian film,
Hmm.
science fiction movie. Now, in the Soviet Union in those days, they didn't have to worry about budgets and making money, so they could do a lot of things. And so they had very, very good science fiction special effects with cosmonauts with space, this kind of thing, planets and all that, inside of space vehicles. And so what Roger wanted to do, he wanted to take all of these scenes that would have been horribly expensive to do in the States, and because the players were in spacesuits, you couldn't see their faces sometimes. So basically he had all of these great scenes, and he needed a script to make it into an American movie that would and so he signed Francis on that. Francis brought me in, and we did a lot of things. But give an example of the kind of stuff that you do with Roger. There was a script that called for two different civilizations that were in competition with each other, not civilizations, two different entities, countries, and they each had flag. And so we needed a scene where we had bleachers full of people waving these little flags. And then we had to have another scene with another group of people in another bleachers waving the opposite flag for the other country. So, okay, this is not something you can put together normally without spending a lot of money. So, but the New Year's Day football game, the Rose Bowl, was coming up, and they always have a parade before the Rose Bowl football game. So we went out ahead of the parade, where all these people were in bleachers waiting for the parade to come by. And we had a little Volkswagen with an open top, and I set the camera up in there. And we had these little flags made up with little flags that people could wave. And Francis had to get out, and we stopped the car in front of before the parade was getting there. We said, we're making a student film, and we should help in passing out all these little flags and ask the people to wave the flags and cheer, which they did. They were having
Yep.
fun. Oh, great, we got that shot. So then we went a little farther down with another group of people with got them to wave the other flags, and all of this, we got the shot. So that went into the movie. I mean, that's the kind of thing we used to do for Roger Corman. So that's basically the good training there.
Yeah, that is fun. Yes, absolutely. Anything else that you want to speak about before we close off? Because I know we had gone into it the other day and things didn't work, and now we're I think we've covered pretty much everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's again, I want to first off thank you for your patience because my laptop um, is fairly new. I got it in October, and it's one of these ones that self updates. And one of these times when it self updated, it locked me out of my laptop where I needed some kind of key. Well, I wasn't familiar with stuff like this. And so my brother had to uh, look into it because he does all this tech stuff. And so when I got my laptop back, I guess he had neglected to create space on my laptop, which he's going to fix this weekend. But it was just a minor overlook. I can still get in there. But I want to thank you for your patience and your understanding and being willing to come back on here and do this. I'm doing this one on my phone today, so that just like I did my last one, and this will turn out. So and I'll send you the link when it's ready, and so unfortunately I can't see you on here, but you know what? Most people are going to be listening to the audio anyway, so it's better that they hear us anyway, you know, because that's where all the information is.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I just want to thank you for your understanding and your patience and coming on here and doing this. And before I let you go, would you mind doing a plug for my show?
Okay, in what way?
Just state your name and say you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
Okay. Hi, this is Jack Hill, and I'm listening to uh, Greg Gilbert's show called Python's Paradise, doing an interview, which I'm very pleased to be able to do.
Absolutely. Jack Hill, you are a treasure. And I'm pretty sure Pam Grier would say so if she were sitting here right now. And so would Sid Haig if he was around right now, he would say the same. Because I know you did a lot to help their careers as well, and I know they appreciate it.
Well, if somebody wants to Google my name, Jack Hill, director, it'll come up with all the titles and posters of my films right there in a row.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, despite Switchblade Sisters off to a bad start, I think that's my favorite of your movies. I love that movie.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of people, which was kind of nice to hear.
Yeah, all those. I gotta say, it's got some beautiful ladies in there too, so that always helps. Feisty ones, but you know, hey.
Beautiful ladies are my pleasure to offer.
There you go. There you go. Well, I bid you a wonderful day, and I thank you so much for coming on here.
Thank you for it. Great. Okay. Bye.
All right, take care.